Hi everybody, welcome to my pregnancy series. This first video is going to be essentially preconception, so before I actually got pregnant, what I went through from a conception standpoint. Just a quick heads up that some people may find that this is too much information. Not that anything's going to be graphic, but I do feel it's important to be open and honest about everything that I went through in order to help others who may be going through something similar or may need some advice. I think most women will find it fine, but if you're a guy watching this just because you know me and you're curious, just an FYI, I am going to be talking about women and pregnancy and things like that. So a little bit of backstory. Middle of 2012, I went off the pill, not because we were ready to have a baby, but because I had been on the pill for about 7 years or so, give or take. So I really wanted to get my body back to its original, normal, natural cycle. I kind of felt like the pill had been changing whatever was natural for me, and I felt like it made sense that to go off of it to give my body time to get ready to have a baby. Everything was fine until the end of 2012, when I noticed that my periods were getting further and further apart to the point where I wasn't having one anymore. I was traveling a lot, I was under a lot of stress at work, so I kind of chalked it up to just stress. Until the beginning of 2013, when I finally got my period again, and it was a really heavy one, and it lasted a whole month. It was terrible. I went to my doctor. They referred me to an OBGYN who had a terrible bedside manner. I did not like her at all, but she diagnosed me with PCOS, which stands for polycystic ovary syndrome. And my understanding of it, at its basic sense, is that your insulin attacks your ovaries, which affects your hormone levels, which makes you ovulate infrequently. So what my OBGYN explained to me is that the cure was to put me back on the pill to regulate everything, regulate my hormones. And then when I wanted to get pregnant, I would most likely need to go on fertility drugs. And I believe her plan was, whenever I was ready to start trying to conceive, to just go ahead and go on those drugs, not even try anything else. I was not very happy with that information. I knew that my husband was not really open for using fertility drugs. So in my mind, it was sort of like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to conceive. But again, I was very busy, had a lot of stuff going on, so I just kind of let it go, started taking the pill again. Towards the end of 2013, my husband and I decided it was time to go ahead and start trying. We knew that it could potentially take us a while, maybe even years, based on the information I had gotten from the doctor. So we figured, let's go ahead and start. And to begin that process, I wanted to find a good doctor, a good OBGYN who I really trusted, who had a better bedside manner, and who understood where I was coming from as a vegan. One of my fears was that I would get a doctor who would say, oh, you're vegan? Oh, well, I'm sorry, but if you're going to be pregnant, you have to have fish, or you have to have meat, or you're anemic, you have to have this, that kind of thing. That was a big fear for me, because in my mind, it's perfectly capable. I know plenty of women who are vegan and pregnant. Some doctors just aren't as open-minded about that kind of stuff. So I did some research, and I found a doctor who was familiar with being vegan, who had really good reviews. And I went in to do a preconception consultation with him, basically just an interview. And that is my first tip for you. If you are planning on trying to have a baby, before you even start trying, do a little research about what kind of birth you want to have, and then research the different OBGYNs that you could pick from. And that way you can start out with a really great doctor and see that doctor straight through to your birth. I didn't do a whole lot of research about the type of birth I wanted to have. I didn't know a whole lot. And I'll get into that in my first trimester video a little more about my whole journey of learning about that. I should have done that. As it turns out, the doctor I picked fit my birth plan perfectly. So I didn't have to switch doctors. Everything worked out. But I have heard of women who have switched doctors way into their third trimester. Technically, you can switch doctors at the hospital when you're giving birth if you're not comfortable. It's just a lot better not to have to do that. So my first thing that I would recommend, do your research, pick a good doctor, interview that doctor. That's going to be very helpful. This doctor was great. I told him about the PCOS, and he recommended that I try a low glycemic diet instead of going straight to the medication, and just trying it for a few months and seeing how that worked. So if you look back at my old videos from the start of this channel where I was talking about being on a low glycemic diet, that was why. And I tried it for about a month or two, and I did find that I lost weight. I think I lost anywhere from 5 to 7 pounds on that diet. So it's a good diet for that as well. But as it turns out, I went off the pill, and boom, we got pregnant like that. So I don't know if it was just the PCOS wasn't really an issue for us, maybe because we started right after going off the pill, we lucked out, or maybe the low glycemic diet had a lot to do with it. I don't really know. I was also taking something called maca powder. I think I may have included a review about that in one of my videos. I don't know that that had much to do with it. I didn't take a whole lot of it, but it was supposed to help symptoms of PCOS and helping with conception. But yeah, so if you struggle from PCOS and are looking to conceive, you might want to consider doing a low glycemic diet to help you out. And it does control your insulin levels. So it makes sense that it would help you. So yeah, that's basically everything right up until we found out we were pregnant. And we actually found out we were pregnant on Christmas Eve, so that was really special. But tune into my next video where I will discuss my first trimester.